Hi guys, welcome to my tutorial. We're going to learn how to create a mean application and we're going to use a phone book application as a sample. What we're going to do in this tutorial, we're going to create a server and test our API with a tool called Postman. I'm going to talk about that later. And then secondly, the second part of the tutorial is to create the client to interact with the server using Angular. So we have a nice little single page uh, applications. So what is mean stack? It's a set of cool technologies and it's an acronym of MongoDB, Express.js, AngularJS, and NodeJS. Okay, so to do before coding, what I mean is it's basically just to set up what we want to have before we start coding. So first we will create a project folder called phone book, and then we will create a file name called package.json in the phone book folder. And though it says install the server API now, but I would really I would jump to it and just create the file called server.js in your project folder. And then we're gonna go to start installing the server APIs. Right, so after this, we edit our package.json and add these lines to your package.json. This is the bare minimum what you're gonna need to use it with npm. To install the server API, we will need to download and install Node first. Then you need to install MongoDB. We're gonna go through that later, possibly, if we have time. Otherwise, you just must read the document on their site and install it yourself. And then we will gonna install it with the package manager, the Express, the body parser, and the MongoJS. So to install the node, we're really gonna need it to create our server, because this is basically the what you need to run your server. It's basically a JavaScript runtime built on the Chrome V8 JavaScript engine. And that's for, and then basically what then you need to install the MongoDB. As you can see on this link, you can follow up and just download and install it. We're not going to go through that really. The Node package manager, I mentioned it before, that comes with Node, and if you install it correctly on Node, then your npm will work perfectly. We're going to install these modules, the Express, the MongoJS, and the body parser. And then once we've done all that, we're going to do basically going through the list what we're going to need to do for the coding. We're going to import the libraries first. Then we create a simple hello world applications, test it, we're going to test our server, and we're going to connect to the database after and retrieve all the data from the database and test it with Postman, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a very, very neat little tool. Then we add a few more records to the database and then test it with a Postman again. And then select a record and test it with a Postman, because you need to select something before you can update. And then you update the record and test it with Postman. And finally, you delete a record and test it with Postman. And that's basically the slides, what we're gonna do as we're planning it. Okay, so before coding, it's kind of like a setup where you're going to create your projects and certain stuff what we talked about earlier on the slide. So let's create our project. So I'm going to create my one in the tutorial folder. So I'm going to make a directory in there. And after that, I'm going to open the folder in my code editor. And as we talked about, I'm going to create two files. One is the package.json. And probably immediately I just add these 4 lines to it, what we talked about, yeah? And then create another file, server.js, just to have all that stuff there. Okay, so now we need to install Node. It's a very straightforward. You just download it and install it. And after that, we can actually install packages via the npm, which is a Node package manager. So that's just that. MongoDB is, again, easy. I had problem with the homebrew before, so I installed it manually. And manually is easy as 1, 2, 3, basically. Just install it, download it, install it. Important things that you make sure they're exporting the path correctly, and to create the data directory, and then to set the permission for that data directory. So later I'm going to show you how to add record to the actual database. So let's start up our database. If we've done it right and you install it, if you type MongoDB, it will start up your database. You see the connections there. It's waiting on port 2717. It's lovely. So now you can start entering to the actual database by typing Mongo. And that is set to, so you have a right to do things with it. So now you show the database. So we have none. So now you want to create one. So you go like use. We're going to create the phone book that we talked about before. And in there, we're going to add a record in there. So we're going to add a name and a number. And it's basically a JSON object, as you can see. And voila. Okay. Forget to add the insert. Sorry. The actual command is insert. So you have to type in there insert. And now you should work. Right? If you want to see if the data is in there, then you just go like db dot, of course, the actual collection, find, and voila, there is your data, your record. Okay, so as you can see, we done MongoDB. So now we're going to install the Node package manager, the Express, the MongoJS, and the body parser. So what we need to do first, we're going to exit from database. So in your project directory, you have to type npm and then install Express, because that's what we're going to install. And we save this to our package.json dependency. If you look at it here, it will add it now. Okay? So that's there. So the next one is, let's say, install body parser. and that's in there as well. And for the last, let's put MongoJS, which is basically connecting our API to the database. It's kind of like it's an official, it's very close to the MongoDB API, so you use it just like as you use the database. So MongoJS. And we save this to the package as well. Once that's done, then we're going to start, as we talked about, we're going to create, well, we're going to import our modules, obviously modules. So let's do that as well. So to speed up a little bit, I'm just going to copy and paste this one because I'm running out of time. Once we've done that, we create our application. And after that, we just start running our test server. We're going to listen on port 3000. So if that worked, we can just check it by running it. Now, if your node is working, then this should work. Basically, it's listening on port 3000. Let's clear that now. So let's see that hello world example, basically, what we were talking about. What it's gonna do is the server gonna send a GET request, and the response would be hello world. That's basically in short. So if you copy that, you will see what I mean later. And you paste that in there. Now, this is the root. So anything you put, anything you want to put, any path you want to put, you can just put it in here. Right now, your root would be just basically the local host on port 3000. So let's see that now. If we run our server again, right? And then if you go to your little local host 3000, hello world. So if you want something come up like as a phone book, you need to send that one to this through the server, that request, and that's when it comes handy when you're gonna do this. So let me turn off the server for now, and that's odd. Phone book. Now you see what I mean now. Must save it, of course. Mine is auto save. Now watch this. Before there was nothing in there, now has an access to Okay, so the routing works perfectly, you can see that. So let's begin our first fun part where we're going to connect to the database and get all of our records, whatever we have in there, and then later add. All right. So we're going to leave that object as it is. Let's just call in here now as get all records. Do you remember you added one record to it, so that you should be at that now. So you're not gonna use the send. We we need to get the response from it because we have a request. We need to get the response. So what we're going to do is we're gonna use the same command as the database do. So it would be db dot phone book. Oh, sorry. Biggest mistake. First of all, I forget one very major thing, and that is basically before you do all that, you need to actually connect to the database. So absolutely apologize for that. And that's very simple. It's nothing else. Just gonna get a variable where we're going to store MongoJS, and in there the actual database is phone book, if you remember correctly, and the collection is phone book as well. So therefore, phone book in there as well. Okay, so now we can carry on with the things that we did before. Now we have a right to access to the database. So now db dot, and it's basically the phone book you want. And you want to find whatever is in there, everything. But this command, if you go onto their website, it has criteria and callback function. We don't have a criteria because we want all of the records to retrieve. So we're just gonna have a callback function. Let's speed this up a little bit. And the callback function has two parameters. Actually, it can be three as well. But basically, the error, we're not gonna use it now, and the document, which we're going to retrieve. And to retrieve that, the response is going to pass them to a JSON for us. So that's that. So if now you test your theory, you run the server, you go back to the phone book here, you press enter, you should have a record there, right? So that's good. We have the actual first record. Now we're gonna do something when we're gonna add some record, but we're gonna use Postman. Now it's gonna be the fun part. Hey guys, so we're gonna look into Postman. I can't give you so much information because it's just a straightforward extension of Google. So you just need to install the REST client. That's it. And you're gonna need the REST client shortcut so you can click in here. Otherwise, you have to go there all the time. So the REST client, you need it to have the actual extension. And the REST client shortcut is just basically puts it in here for you so you can click on it. So that's that basically. Now anyway, so once you have Postman, I can show you what it looks like. It's kind of like this. I don't know if the server is still running. Let me see. Yeah, my server is still running. So if I put it in here, phone book, not delete, sorry, just to get, because at the moment we only have get, just a simple get. Then we get the actual data in JSON. So it's really neat. And you can also post, put, touch, delete, copy, add, and so on. we're going to use just get, post, put, and delete. In our slide, we're mentioning that we need to add a few records. In order to add a few records, we need to have an add method, which we're going to add that now. And that is basically the post method in Express to posting. We're using the same command what we used for the MongoDB. So remember, this is MongoJS, which is very close to the MongoDB API. In fact, probably is absolutely they're identical. And then we're returning a JSON. But however, at this stage, it's not going to work. But I'm going to show you what happened, what we have to do to make it work. Let's just add that now and then comment it out so to see what I meant. You're going to need to have a body parser to parse the body that we're getting from the request. So let's just comment it out for now and run your server. And let's go to the Postman. So let's say we want to add some add some record to it. So you copy that, and first of all, you need to change it to post, right? Set it to raw for now, because we don't have an URL included one. So let's paste that in here. Set it to JSON, okay? Remove the ID, you don't need it, because the ID gets provided by the database. And let's call it Tony. And let's just change it to 22222, okay? So now if I send that, bang, it's not working. And the reason it's not working is because it cannot read anything. So if you look here, when you running it, it cannot find the name property. And the reason is because there is nothing in the body, because it's not parsed. So what we need to do is that. Let's just enable that. Turn off your server, of course, and then restart it. And go back to your Postman and send it again. And look at that. Still not working. And the reason it's not working is because you need to add a headers. The header content type has to be an application JSON /JSON. So now we'll fix that problem, like I promised you. If I send that now, bang, now your database is there. So if you go to your get function just there, and I call it, you have two completely useless data in there, because one is there is nothing in it, two of them, and then is one which you have in Tony in there. So congratulations, completed the add method. As you can see, if you look at your console or your terminal, you can see now Tony has been added. Before you couldn't add. So anyway, let's stop the server and let's do the select method, because we need to select the method. It's pretty much same as a get method, except you have to find the one. So what you do is, I'm just gonna go and paste it. Okay. And I explain to you. Same thing goes in here, except parameter will have an ID there. And what it means is, whenever you type something into the browser, you type the ID in there, it will get that information from the parameters. Now, query is that the MongoDB uses the underscore ID, so you just checking it if the ID is equals with the ID of that what you get from the parameters. The object ID is converted into a DB ID, which is MongoDB ID. So that's just basically, you read about it and you will understand. But that's always the same. Whenever you're going to check for a record, you always just use this object ID inside the actual ID you want. Now, and then what you do is there's a function called find one when you actually passing the query, which is basically you want to check if the ID is equals with the actual record you want to select, and then it returns the record for you. So let's see if that works, yeah? So we go here, run the server, and then we go back to our Postman, and let's pick up an ID there. I'll say that will do for us nicely. So if you send that one, voila, it picks up. So congratulations, your edit function is working as well. So now we can select the record, we cannot update it yet. So we need to have a function which will update your record. So let's just do that now. Right. What is this function does? It basically uses the put method, which we know that is a HTTP method to update a record or yeah, to replace something. So that's what it's used for. Now we do the exact same things what we're doing in the edit version or the select version. Just a small little difference in there. Instead of just have a query, we actually send a whole document. And the document, what it contains is, it contains two objects. One is the query and one is the update. Now, the query, we already know how it works. I don't have to talk about that. But the update has a keyword called $set, which basically replaces the name, what is in the what you're setting it to from, in this case, from the request body name will be the replaced one. So same goes for the number. Other than that is again just a normal MongoDB command, find and modify, and what it does is just looking for a document, and in there it's looking for all that information, and then has a return or a callback function which will returns your result, which is very useful later in the client as well, of course. So let's see if that works. Yeah. So let's turn off our server first, and mine was already saved. So let's go back there, and let's go here, and let's say we look for again all the documents in here, and look, we have this has nothing inside at all. So let's see that, and let's go to put. Now that is that, and then you add this one there, right? Again, the header is going to be needed, which is a content type, and that is basically an application JSON. And because we have Tony already, let's call this one, because we added things, an empty. So at the moment, it's empty because we didn't put anything in there. But now we can just put, let's call it bill, let's say 333. So we know that is definitely a number. So when we send that, that is just before that. But what you can do is, if you look at now your get, you can see is actually added there nicely. So your edit is work, update is work. So now all you need is to delete. So let's try to delete this one. Of course, until you don't have an API from the server, you cannot do nothing. So even if I go like that, and probably that's an obvious thing, but just in case, if you think you can do that, you cannot. There. You try to delete this. Nothing to delete because it has got no API, no access to it, no routings. So congratulations, we have update method working as well. On that slide will be, this is the last method we need to create, delete. So let's add that to our little server API here. And let me explain to you again. It's as simple. We're just using the delete method from the Express, which is basically delete. It sends the delete method to the server. Now, you have to have again an ID, of course, the same way as we do it throughout this tutorial. You can log out if you deleted the actual ID or the actual record you wanted to delete. It's visible in your console later. And again, there's a query where you're checking against the object ID what you sent through the parameters ID. So basically, that's just basically the same things. And then again, we're using this, using the MongoDB method remove, and we're passing the query and the callback functions, where we just basically returning the document. And the documents this time is just returning that is deleted one or is okay, or if it didn't find or something. And basically, that's all. So let's see if that works. So let's stop our server, restart it. Right, and remember, we want to delete this ugly empty record here. So let's do that. Thinking here, you're probably not going to need the headers. I believe you realize that now. So let's delete. Bang. See? It deleted one, a number of one. So basically, deleted one record. If you go and see this one in your get functions, which will get all your record, you can see now I have three nice information there. Now, what I wanted to show you is, because you might wonder what is this in the post section for this, the uniform, the form URL encoded. It's basically when it's encoded in your URL and it's not visible. So for example, if you try to add in here a key value, you're not going to need a header in here, and you try to add a key value, anything like, so for example, a name, and you say Terry, okay, and the number, which would be let's say 5555. Look what's going to happen. Bang, you can't add it. It adds a new record to it, but it can't add because the body is not readable, it's encoded. So if you go in here and you look at it, you see that it's again an empty there. So it's a solution for that, and I'm going to show you that now. Don't worry, it's simple. And all you need is just here where you have the parser, or anywhere, basically anywhere in there, you just add this line. What it means is the body parsers, this time it can use URL encoding, and you set it to extended true, so you can accept the queries. Now, once you've done that and you run that again, you stop that and then restart your server, and you go back to your Postman, and you try to redo that you tried to do before, which is in here. Yeah. What I think is it remembers all of that things what you tried to do in here. It's really, really clever. I can click here and it remembers what I did. So it's really, really neat little thing. So anyway, remember I couldn't dot Terry before. And also I had an undefined in here. Yeah, see? Because you couldn't dot it. And now watch this. Now I can add it. See? It's now there. So if I look at it inside in my, this Terry is in there, the last. So basically, that's all for now, folks. We're gonna do later on, well, tutorial 2 will have the actual Angular, the client side, and I hope you enjoy that. I tried to do it as best as I could, but, well, have fun, and all the links gonna be on the site, and happy programming, guys.